You know that feeling when you're just stuck? You've got a problem, you've turned it over and over in your head 1,000 times, and you're getting absolutely nowhere? Well, what if I told you the key to a massive breakthrough wasn't more thinking, but a simple drawing?
Yeah, I know. It sounds a little crazy. Too simple to be true, right? How can a few lines on a piece of paper actually untangle these complex personal issues that have kept us tied up in knots for years? Okay, let's actually dive into this, because the science behind it is pretty fascinating.
So, the answer is found in something called the resonance image method. And listen, this has nothing to do with being a great artist. It's about creating a little window, a snapshot, into the hidden logic of our own minds. It's a way to bypass all that noisy, analytical thinking and get right to the heart of what's really going on.
To really get how this works, we're going to have to put on our detective hats for a bit. We're going to follow 3 major clues from the world of systemic science. And when we put them all together, they solve the mystery of how a simple picture can literally change everything.
All right, our first clue is a real mind-bender. It comes from this idea called constructivism, which basically says that the reality you and I experience isn't just there. It's not something that happens to us, it's actually something we are actively creating moment by moment.
This quote from the cyberneticist Heinz von Förster just nails it. The idea is, we don't just see the world as it is, we interpret it. We run it through our own unique filters. You know, our past experiences, our beliefs, our feelings. We invent our own version of it.
The theorist Paul Watzlawick broke this down really well. He said there are 2 types of reality. First-order reality is just the objective, verifiable facts. So in our example, an employee asks a bunch of questions in a meeting. That's a fact. But second-order reality, well, that's where we actually live. That's the meaning we slap onto that fact. Is that employee engaged and curious? Or are they insecure? Or maybe they're trying to challenge the boss. See? The exact same event creates 3 totally different realities.
And here is the absolute crucial point. We act and feel based on our second-order reality, our interpretation. And this is why we get so stuck. We treat our personal interpretations as if they're solid gold facts, and then we try to solve our problems from inside that very limited, invented reality.
Okay, let's grab our second clue. This one comes from biology and systems theory, and it builds right on top of our first one. It basically explains that we humans, psychologically speaking, operate like these self-contained, self-regulating systems. Now, the scientific term for this is autopoiesis, which is a mouthful, but it just means self-creation. The best way to think about it is like a living cell. A cell is constantly maintaining itself, regenerating itself, all based on its own internal rules. It's in charge. It decides what to let in and what to keep out. It is totally autonomous.
And this has huge implications for us. It means you can't be forced to change from the outside. People can give you advice, commands, really logical arguments, but none of that can directly control your system. All of that outside stuff is just a disturbance or a perturbation. Whether or not that information actually creates a change inside you depends completely on the state of your own system at that moment. The change always comes from within. Okay, quick recap. Clue number 1, our reality is an invention. Clue number 2, we're self-regulating systems that can only change from the inside. So our third and final clue explains how these systems can make these massive spontaneous leaps. You know, those aha moments that seem to come out of nowhere and change everything.
This clue comes to us from a field called synergetics. It's basically the science of self-organization. It explains how, when the conditions are just right, a complex system can spontaneously jump from a messy, chaotic state into a brand new, higher level of order and stability. You can think of it as the science behind quantum leaps in our thinking.
So here's how it works. It's a 3-step process. First, a system, like our perspective on a problem, is stuck in a stable pattern. It's an attractor. Then, some new piece of information comes along and disturbs it, knocks it off balance. For a moment, things feel chaotic, confusing. But then, right out of that chaos, the system spontaneously reorganizes itself into a new, better, more stable pattern.
And this isn't just a minor tweak. This is what Watzlawick called a change of the second order. It's not about trying harder to solve the problem within the old reality. It's about a complete shift to a brand new reality where that old problem might not even make sense anymore. It's changing the whole game, not just moving the pieces around. All right, detectives, we have all our clues. Let's lay them out. 1. Our reality is a subjective invention. 2. We are closed systems that change from within.
And 3, big changes happen when our system makes a spontaneous leap from chaos to a new order. Now let's put it all together and solve this thing.
So we get back to our central question. What kind of perturbation is powerful enough to knock our stuck mental patterns into that creative chaos and trigger one of those leaps? It can't just be another logical argument, right? We already know our system is pretty much closed to that. We need to speak a different language.
And this is where the difference between digital and analog thinking is so important. Our digital thinking is our inner narrator. It's verbal, it's logical, it's linear, if this, then that. But analog thinking, that's totally different. It thinks in pictures, it's holistic, it's intuitive. It doesn't follow rigid logic, it sees all the connections and possibilities at once.
And that's the secret. A drawing is pure analog communication. It's like a secret back door. It completely bypasses our verbal defenses. You know, that part of our brain that's already got the whole problem figured out and is stuck in a loop. An image speaks a language that our self-regulating system understands directly, on a gut level.
Okay, now you can see the process right here. On the left, you've got an initial image that represents the problem. It often feels blocked, static, trapped. But the image on the right, that's a resonance image, a spontaneous, intuitive visual answer to the problem. See the difference? The energy is totally different. It's dynamic, it's flowing, it's open. It's literally a picture of a solution emerging.
That resonance image becomes the perfect disturbance we've been talking about. And here's why it's so powerful. Because it was generated by the person's own system. It's a piece of information that the system instantly recognizes as deeply true and relevant. It's like a message from your gut to your head, one that you just can't argue with or ignore. And that's the final domino. That visual disturbance pushes the old, stuck pattern into chaos and then triggers that self-organized leap, the order transition. The system spontaneously finds a new, healthier, more effective way to organize itself. The person wasn't told the answer, their own system discovered it, creating a whole new reality in an instant. So, we've pieced together all the clues, we've solved the mystery, but what's the big takeaway here? What does all this cool science actually mean for us when we're staring down our own stubborn problems?
Okay, here are the essentials. First, remember that the reality that's causing your problem is just a story, and you have the power to change that story. Second, you can't be forced to change. Real transformation is always an inside job. Third, these big changes don't have to be some slow, painful grind. They can happen in a flash, a spontaneous leap. And finally, to trigger that leap, sometimes the best thing you can do is stop talking, stop thinking, and start drawing. Use these analog tools to speak a language your deeper self truly understands.
And that leaves us with one final thought to take with you. We've seen that the world we experience is, in so many ways, our own invention. So the question is this: if you could pick up the pen right now, which part of your reality would you be inspired to redraw?